Hello, and welcome to the Elevate Entrepreneur, where we decode the success of some of the greatest entrepreneurs that I've met, that I know, that I trust. These individuals have not only built their business up, but they've also impacted lives for the better. Here you will learn not only how to grow your business, but also inspire you to want to be just a little bit better. I'm your host, Raylan Davis. My entire intention is to remove obstacles and excuses as to why people can't realize they deserve more. With that being said, let's jump into this week's episode. Stay motivated, stay elevated. Welcome back to the Elevate Entrepreneur. I'm your host, as always, Raylan Davis, and with me, I have a phenomenal guest that I've been actually really excited about getting on the podcast for a little bit now. His name is Leonard Szymczak. I did it. I nailed it. That was good, right?
Great job.
Okay, thank you. I just needed some kudos as we go. So he's an award-winning author, international speaker, psychotherapist, and life coach for the last 40 years, which is pretty insane. And I'm really interested to talk about all the things that I think most people are interested in today. We talked a little bit about resilience before we started recording. I also saw that you are really passionate about helping men, so I'm going to get into all of that. But first, I want to say again, thank you for coming to the podcast.
Hey, it's a pleasure being here with you, Raylan, and I love your message that you're giving out to the audience.
Yeah, I'm trying my best, man. Okay, so here's the first question, okay? You've been doing this 40 years. Now, here's the thing. Every other week, I learn something new, and I change my mind about something. And every other week, I even when it comes to what does it mean to be successful, like there's so many things that I've changed my mind on. In the last 40 years, I'm actually super curious about, one, what have you changed your mind about lately in the last 40 years when it comes to helping people find their purpose, all those things. And if anything, and then I think the other part of that is obviously, again, what have you changed your mind about recently, but also what keeps you motivated for 40 years? Because I get shiny object syndrome pretty much every other day. So I'm just curious, again, what keeps you on purpose and what maybe have you changed your mind about in the last 40 years?
Great question.
I know it's a very hard one right out the gate, huh? We're coming in strong.
I believe I've been in a shift. So here's my latest. So I believe that every day I try to do something outrageous. That's kind of my new mantra. What can I do that's outrageous today? Because, we tend to live in a comfort zone and get really comfy. And I says, well, what can I do that's outrageous? Obviously, having this podcast with you, Raylan, it's a bit outrageous, and hopefully we'll have an outrageous conversation. So we're not just going to have a boring conversation. We're going to have an outrageous conversation. So to me, my philosophy these days is do something outrageous every day. If not now, when the hell are you going to be outrageous?
Fair enough. And then do you feel like that changed at all? Like I guess my question is, how do you get somebody, inspire somebody to step out of their comfort zone and be outrageous? Because there's a lot of individuals that love the idea of being outrageous. Like for me, for example, I talk to a lot of like online consultants and coaches, and we bring people online, right? We give them online presence, but that can, for some people, be kind of scary. Because you went from being unknown to possibly thousands of people hear your message every single day. That's outrageous to them, and to overcome that. So how do you get someone to the point of saying yes to being outrageous?
I think the key is that we all have important messages. We've been here, put on this earth for a purpose. And our challenge is to recognize that purpose. I'll tell you, since we're young, often we may have a talent, a gift, a purpose, and yet society says, oh no, that's not your purpose. Your purpose is to, make money. I've worked with thousands of people in my professional career. It's been very interesting, the messages that individuals receive from their family. And often those messages are limiting belief systems that stop them from really living their purpose. And once we get connected to our internal purpose, that which is the message that really resonates, vibrates, excites us, that's the message we're supposed to convey. But we have to get rid of those limiting beliefs that stop us from really being out there in the world.
Yeah, so that brings me to the next question then. So purpose is something that it's interesting. I think I was more maybe in the making money category, because I came up poor, so like I just wanted to make money, and then I figured I was really good at generating, like monetizing anything, and then I became an online coach, and so I started helping people do that. And then I think, like, literally just got done with a meeting with my team about this, is that with our agency, for example, we want to prioritize the clients that have a purpose that's aligned with ours. So our purpose is to help people remove obstacles and excuses so they can realize they deserve more. Like, and so it's just recently that I think I found that purpose. So my question to you is, one, how can others find their purpose? Like, what is that? Let's start with this. What the fuck is a purpose in the first place? And like, how does one find it? You know, it seems like kind of a hard task.
Well, I think of a purpose as kind of a bit of a mission. So a mission comprises kind of vision plus action. So we all have a gift. I believe that our inner guidance system, and I believe we all have an inner GPS. So I wrote a book, The Roadmap Home, with GPS to Inner Peace, that teaches us to connect with our inner guidance system. We all have our inner guidance system, and if I can connect with that inner guidance system, it's going to reveal the purpose for me. So again, I have to really, be still, really have a relationship. I have to develop a relationship with that inner guidance system. Many people forget about it. Do you know, Raylan, that boys usually are connected to emotions up until the age of 6, and after the age of 6, they start getting disconnected from emotions. Emotions often are vehicles for us to get connected to, yes, this feels important. This feels like this is my life's destiny. But if I'm disconnected from my emotions, I'm not able to get these intuitive bursts of messaging from our inner guidance system.
So like an inner guidance system would then be like intuition, as some people would say it.
Yeah, it's like intuition. I believe it's kind of. I believe we're all kind of souls on this human excursion. So our inner guidance is really connecting with our very soul's purpose, and the messages come in various different ways. It may come in intuitive bursts. It may come from symbols on the outside. If you ask people, what are your favorite numbers? Those people usually have favorite numbers or symbols and messages that come to them. So I always say, if your inner guidance system was going to connect with you, like Raylan, I bet you're very attuned to your inner guidance system. You know when, okay, this is what I've got to do today. This is the message I've got to convey, right? Isn't that how it works with you?
Yeah.
It works for all of us, but a lot of people just somehow don't feel connected. Like dreams. I've been writing my dreams for 40 years. So the dream world is like the psyche is sending messages to us. And, we're taught from a young age that, dreams are just nothing. Well, dreams are not nothing. They are messengers from our psyche to convey to us in a symbolic language. We just have to decipher the language.
Yeah, no, that's super fair. And I think you're right on the feeling side of it. I never thought of it that way, in that a lot of how we found our purpose was, I started looking at all the clients that I've worked with, and like the hell yes clients. Yes. And there were similarities to them all. And they were not money driven, they were impact driven. And then we just kind of formulated our purpose based off who we like to work with, and it just so happened. And then also too, it's like, who do I get excited about? Because I don't know about you, but like for me, I've had clients that are just boring as hell, and like I don't want to work with them. But it's because, to your point, they're not really aligned with that purpose. Now, I was reading your bio, and I also saw a few things. You mentioned this thing called authentic self, which has been kind of a buzzword in the last few years. So what the hell is authentic self? What does that mean?
Well, I think of the poem by E.E. Cummings. To be nobody but yourself in a world which is doing its best night and day to make you everybody else means to fight the hardest battle that any human being can fight and never stop fighting. So our authentic self, really, we're born with this authentic way of being in the world. And as we age, we start developing this false self, our egoic form. So these are messages that either parents or ministers or teachers teach us. And then we start developing this false self, which is a way of how we survive in the world, versus if you look at young children, if you want to know what an authentic self is, look at young children. So I've got 3 grandchildren. So just watching my grandchildren, and one's 7, one's 2, they're alive. They wake up alive, vibrant. They know what they want. They're very authentically there. If they're having a temper tantrum, they're authentically having a temper tantrum. Mm-hmm. But then as they age, I know as I'm watching them age, I can see once they enter the school system, they start suppressing a lot of what their feelings are and what they want to say. They start preventing themselves from really being authentic in the way they express their feelings, in expressing their thoughts, even in expressing their body. So to be authentic, really, you're really connected with body, your emotions, your mind, your heart, your voice, and your vision. You're all connected, and that is when you're really connected to your authentic self.
So would it be fair to say it's like making sure that all those things are in alignment, and that's your authentic
Yes.
self, versus
Yes.
like, because what I found, what's interesting, and I don't know if you've seen this in your practice before, but again, with the entrepreneurs that I work with, I've had people give me the excuse, like one of the things that are kind of important when one of the things you want to do is impact more lives is you got to get out there more. You need to make content. You may need to call somebody. You may need to pitch something. I mean, to get you on this podcast, we had to DM you, right? And take a risk. And they go, well, it's not my authentic self to do that. What the fuck does that mean? It's like a cop out, right? So like, how do you know that's, because it's like authentic self, people have used it as a way to be comfortable. And in order to grow, it's almost like this counterintuitive thing. In order to grow and be more of like your authentic self, you got to do something that you're not comfortable with, but also some people use it as a way to be authentic. So I don't know, have you seen that before, or is that something that you've experienced as well, people using it as like a comfort zone thing?
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you a story that will answer this question. So when I was a boy, my grandmother she grew gourds, like these little pumpkins. And they're like little squashes. And she told me that if you put these gourds in a glass jar, it will take the shape of the jar. And sure enough, I put the little gourds in a jam jar, different types of jars of different shapes. And sure enough, over time, the gourd would take the shape of the jar. And I thought, human beings are a bit similar to that. We are put into this glass house. Our authentic self is growing, but then we're put in these glass jars of belief systems that we're told this is what we're meant to believe. And most of us don't even realize we're in these glass jars. We've got glass walls around us. And our goal is to break those glass jars, to break out of it so we can really authentically start living our life more freely in the world.
So it's almost like getting to, like, if you could be your authentic self, you have more of a shot of actually reaching your full potential.
Absolutely right. I mean, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you're going to the, authentic self is moving to your actualizing your potential. So, yeah, your authentic self is taking you on this journey of self-actualization, just to actualize your full potential as a human being.
So one of the things I saw too was that you talked, about the hero's journey and some of the things you wanted to talk about in the podcast. And it was fascinating because I hadn't seen someone use the hero's journey in the context of like psychotherapy. I've only seen it from the context of marketing, and also like copywriting and those things. So walk me through how you made that connection of hero's journey, storytelling to, hey, this could actually help people find their purpose, live in their purpose. Because that was kind of a cool connection.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I tell all my clients, you are the hero, the main character in your story. And the heroic journey, I put it down to basically 4 C's, maybe 5 C's. The first C is a call, then there's a climb, there's a crash. Most clients come to me during the crash. And then there's the crest, where we want to get to the top. And the last one may be the celebration. But, most clients come to me, they're in a crash. Something, they've had a relationship problem, they've suffering from anxiety and depression, maybe they've had some real health issues, they lost a loved one, they're in grief, whatever. They've had a crash. And so I help them say, okay, well, what is your calling? What are you called to do now? And the calling really asks us to find our voice and to discover what is that call that we're meant to be. So growing up, I grew up in your normal dysfunctional family. So, it's just my father left the family the first time when I was 6, the second time I was 9. He was suffering from mental illness. There was domestic violence in my family. And so, and I survived by being invisible. As long as I was invisible, I figured I wasn't going to incur the wrath of my parents. So my call in life has to become visible, to find what message is that's important and share that with the world. That's been my calling through my writing, through my speaking, and even using my voice with clients So that's been my call. And then once we've answered the call, we go into the climb. And that's, we need resources, allies, we need mentors, we need people like you to help entrepreneurs to climb the mountain. So this is all part of the climb. You are one of the Sherpas of the, I guess I would say, Raylan, you're a Sherpa. Whether you know it or not, you're a Sherpa to help people get to the top of the mountain.
What's really funny about that, so my company's called Elevated Coaches Academy, but there was a moment we almost called it Sherpa Academy. I swear to God.
Is that
because
right?
because the idea was I didn't want to be, it was kind of interesting. We I thought it was more, because I have a different kind of approach to coaching in that it's I guess you could say it's similar to therapy in that I don't give anybody answers they didn't already have. So I'm not telling you what to do. I'm guiding you. You know what you need to do. You just need to do it. And sometimes, like whether it's in our academy or in the agency, it's a little bit different in that our agency clients, again, they know that they have a calling, right? They know that they want to get their message out. They know that social media is important to them. They just don't know how, or they don't have time, or sometimes even they have an obstacle in terms of like their own ego, or their imposter syndrome, which it's been fascinating because I have clients that are, my youngest client I think is like 50, and they still even struggle with imposter syndrome. Like there's been times, I've told the story before, but I've even had clients call me and go, people are being mean to me online, Raylan. Like, okay, we got to talk about this. Like, no one's been mean to you before. Like, it's the internet anyway. But what I think is fascinating about what you're saying about your background, because we talked about this before, but I had the similar background, right? Like, grew up in a domestic violent home. And what I have found to be true is that I talk a lot about personal branding, right? Especially being online. And I usually say your purpose comes from pain. And at least it's a really good way to get you on the roadmap to it. And so, like, I did this huge workshop recently about this concept of like, go back to your most early stage of, and this actually comes from Evan Carmichael. He wrote a book called oh shit, I'm so sorry, Evan, I forgot the name of the book. I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, I'll figure it out.
Well, another way I say exactly the same thing. I say, out of our deepest wounds comes our greatest gifts, and that's basically what you're saying is your purpose comes from pain.
Yeah, because again, like, that's usually what motivates you, and then like from there you find like the upside to it, right? Like, again, for us, it's been like, I want to give a voice to people that are impacting people, right? To remove excuses, and I've said this before, but it's for me. I, instead of being quiet, I was the victim. My fiance just sent me Built to Serve. That's what it's called. Evan Carmichael, Built to Serve. Thanks, babe. All right. So, Built to Serve. And it's what he talks about. But anyway, so what I did was I was a victim my whole life. My family played the victim. And because of that, we had an excuse for everything. Why we were broke, why we didn't get what we wanted. And so it became about, if I can remove my own excuses, I could probably have more out of life, and it worked. So then that became my purpose of showing people, hey, you don't have to be a victim in your life anymore. Like, you could choose something differently, right? Which I feel like, here's, I guess, my next question is, I have a bit of a bone to pick with therapy. All right? And I want you to,
so do I.
Okay, good. All right, good. Because here's my bone.
Let's pick the bones.
There are some people, like, look, I've been through therapy, and I got lucky. My therapist was phenomenal. Like, there was a point in time, I remember I was raising my voice. I was like really mad and I was frustrated, and she was trying to get a word in edgewise, and I wasn't listening. I was just yelling and yelling. I was just irate. And she goes, Raylan, shut the fuck up and sit down. And I was like, oh shit, okay. Like, I understood that language, But what she did that was really great was that she didn't pay me out to be the victim. Where the problem that I have, I'm curious to know if you feel the same way. There's a lot of therapy, not saying all, but a lot of therapy starts with the premise that the individual's broken versus that the individual has everything they need. They just need to look at the world maybe a little bit differently. And so I don't know, what is your thoughts on therapy as a whole, and what bones did you have to pick with therapy?
I have a similar bone. And the similar bone is therapists traditionally are looking to diagnose people and basically saying there's something wrong with you. I believe, like you, no one is broken. All we've done is we've developed survival strategies. So really, all of our survival strategies, when you think about them, they're ingenious. Even if a person's depressed or anxious, These are survival strategies that have helped them overcome trauma or deal with trauma. So I say to my clients, listen, no one's broken. You have some survival strategies that help you survive up until now. Now, you can choose to have different survival strategies. So you don't have to isolate as a survival strategy. You don't have to be invisible as a survival strategy. Now, you could choose other survival strategies, and you don't want to get rid of those old ones because they may come in handy later on. You want to expand yourself to have other survival strategies to allow you greater capacity to be in the world. That's my take. Because it really pisses me off that even the problem is, Raylan, mental health is often insurance driven. And insurance driven means you have to have a diagnosis, a mental from the DSM-5, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, for them to be any reimbursement. And so you have to be, clients need to be diagnosed with depression or anxiety or attention deficit disorder or whatever. And the diagnosis, it really blows my mind. So someone will come in and says, yes, I have a personality disorder. I said, what does that mean? They take this on. Is this like a badge of courage or whatever? What does it mean? It just means some of your behaviors fall within this thing, but it doesn't mean your identity is this. It just means you have certain behaviors that fall into it. I have some depressed symptoms. I am a depressed person. No, I am not a depressed person. I have depressed symptoms. That's an empowering response versus I am. If you say I am something, you're identifying yourself as that particular characteristic. No. I have these I have some anxiety symptoms, or I suffer from anxiety. That can be a more empowering statement than I am an anxious person. Well, what the hell can I do with I am an anxious person?
Yep. Well, again, then you have this and by the way, I'm sorry for the listeners, but we're on Riverside right now. So if you see Leonard, just so you know, if it seems laggy, at the end it'll come out a lot better. It's just a thing that Riverside does. Anyway, I just don't want you to get concerned that it's not recording. But no, I've had the same kind of issue with people going around. I have anxiety. I have anxious. I'm an anxious person. I am depressed, because that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I remember talking to somebody that was close to, and I love her to death, but she would constantly talk about online about how anxious she was all the time and how she struggled with anxiety. And then I asked her this question once, and again, I love her to death, and that's why I think it was good that she thought about it. But I go, have you ever thought about the fact that at this point now, maybe you saying that you're anxious is creating a world in which is making you anxious? And because you do it and you're getting people that like it and comment and say, hey, I'm there with you, and you have, you're almost rewarding the behavior being anxious. So you're almost creating this evolution of well, if I tell people I'm anxious all the time, people will give me love and attention and all those things. I even may get clients from it. And then now the next situation comes up, and then you get anxious again. And it's a badge of honor when it's you could choose another route. And again, some people, again, I think what I love about what you were saying is the idea of choice. Before, you didn't have a choice in having this anxious reaction to something because it was your defense mechanism. But now that you're aware of it, do you want to continue being this way? Do you want to continue choosing that survival mechanism, as you put it? Or would you like to look at maybe another one? And I love the idea of choice there, because again, what's funny about what you're saying too is a lot of the things that happens around us and happens for us, does serve us. It's for example, imposter syndrome. That doesn't serve me. Actually, it does. It protects you from the scary reality you may fail. That's scary. So your ego is protecting you. So, but is it serving you the way that you want? Yeah.
So I take a tack of having a relationship. So let's take anxiety. So if I get a client coming in and he says, I'm feeling anxious, I'm whatever, and I says, oh really? Well, your anxiety is welcome here, and let's invite your anxiety part to come out into the room. I'd like to meet your anxiety part. So come on out. So obviously, well, what are you talking about? He says, you just got an anxiety part, just a part of you. You got 10 fingers. It's just one of your fingers. Come on out. I just say, come on out. I want to get to know you. And the same thing. Oh, you're depressed part. Come on. I want to get to know you. Let me find out, when did you come into being? When did you first start feeling like you had to really exert your influence. And so I develop a relationship. And then the amazing thing is, as I develop a relationship, like with the anxiety part, all of a sudden there's these incredible insights about, oh, wow, this is what you were there to protect me. Well, thank God you helped me become hypervigilant in a very traumatic household. And without you, I could have been dead. So thank you so much. So part of it is accepting these parts of ourselves, thanking them for protecting us, because they're often protective parts of ourselves. And then having then we can say, do you want to exert all the energy on my life, or can I use some of your energy in a different way in my life? So you're actually playing with the relationship.
Well, I love that you mentioned obviously the word like energy too, because it really is. It's like you can't be anxious, let's say, have all your time worrying about the future that may never happen, and simultaneously do effective work in the present. You can't have both. So it really is about managing your energy. Like, do you want to keep worrying about the future, or should we come back to the now, right? Like, I am the worst. I always say this, but Leonard, I'm like the worst friend to call when you're going through something, because immediately I'm always like, okay, but when did that happen? Oh, it happened like last week. Okay, but is it last week or is it today? Oh, it's today. So what the fuck are we talking about? Like, why are we still on this? Like, accept that it happened, because usually, in my opinion, and tell me if I'm wrong here, I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong, although it will be hard to convince me. But I feel like a lot of the world's issues are centered around should and could. Things should be this way, or it could be this way, when if you just accept the way things are and go, yeah, that happened. Like, I remember, again, going back to like our past lives or whatever, but when, growing up as a domestic violent victim, I hated that title because it became my identity. Yeah. And then at some point, it was like, oh, that happened. Yeah, and I'm accepting that it happened, but also I'm like a human. Like, I have other interests. Like, there's other parts of me that's interesting. Like, we don't always have to talk about that. And I think once I accepted that reality that did happen in the past, but it doesn't mean today, right? I can choose something different. I'm not a victim anymore. I was, and now I am not. I think it solves a lot of issues. But I think a lot of the problem is we spend a lot of time in the future and obviously in the past. I think that the struggle is like, how do you get out of that, right? How do you get out of that cycle?
Well, there's a couple of things here. So there's a study that women in college who were depressed, when they talked to other women about being depressed, they felt better. Mm-hmm. They did another study. Males in college who were depressed, when they talked to other males about being depressed, they felt worse. Mm-hmm. And part of it is us guys have a very difficult time dealing with difficult emotions. And so even if someone's saying to you, hey, I'm feeling depressed or whatever, you start moving into fix-it mode.
Yeah.
And that's, as men, we're kind of geared towards fixing things, being successful in the external world. Yet if someone's saying to me, I'm depressed, he's saying something to me about what he's needing from the relationship right now. So I try to go so what are you needing right now? You're telling me you're depressed. What are you needing? Are you needing some support? Are you needing encouragement? Are you needing some love? Are you needing some guidance, some advice? So us males, and I hear this so many times, Raylan, when I work with couples, women complain so much. I'm just trying to...
You can add me to that list.
You're trying to fix me. I don't want to be fixed. Yeah. Just listen to me. And us guys, we're geared to fixing. A partner may be saying, they're having really difficulty. Oh, I can fix that for you. I don't want to be fixed. Yeah. I just want to just share what's going on with me, Yeah. So I think as men, we have to watch out that we're Mr. Fix-Its,
Well, especially with my fiance, that's something that I learned along the way was, and she educated me on this for sure, which was like, I don't need to fix it all the time. And like, and also it's like, you just want to vent. But what's funny is it's like, okay,
it's
what do you
need? It's not just vent,
like,
Raylan. It's really trying to connect at a deeper level. So let's say it's not just venting. Venting may just be the first phase, because then you want to go, what emotionally are you really asking for underneath? I'll tell you, as human beings, we have a hard time really connecting heart to heart. And
Yeah.
like maybe your fiance, she may just want to connect heart to heart with you.
Yeah.
And when you connect
Yeah.
heart to heart, boy, that love's going to flow.
Yeah, you are right, because if you are trying to fix something, like I don't know if there's a real, but also too, like that's how I show love versus like I show love by going, let me fix all your,
That's,
like
men,
again, my entire company is centered around removing obstacles. So like when the love of my life says, hey, I have an obstacle, I go, all right, like let me fix it for you. But it's like that's not the
it's
move.
acts of service. Like if you look at the 5 languages of love, us guys
Yeah.
typically acts of service. Where there's touch, there's affirmations, there's gifts, and there's quality of time. Let's say if your fiance, she just may want quality time to hang out with you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Now, here's the thing, though. Now, I know some of my clients might be listening to this and saying, "Oh, this is Raylan." No, if you're a client of mine, do not call me complaining, because I will not put up with that shit. Because again, it's like, when we're talking about, like, again, the idea of like entrepreneurship, it's a little bit different, right? Like if I had somebody call me, as an entrepreneur saying, "Hey, I'm really worried about what if this happens, what if that happens," it's like, okay, well, sometimes it is actually valuable, because we can kind of go ahead. Like one of my favorite exercises, I forgot who I got this from, so forgive me, but basically it was like, all right, if we come out with a program, we launch a webinar, and nobody buys, what went wrong? So that's a really good strategy for going through your checklist of being like, all right, is the landing page good? And then it's usually your intuition tells you like, hey, I didn't spend a lot of time in the landing page. The copy's not good. Like, let's spend some time there, which makes sense. The problem I think again about being ahead or being in the future is like, it's usually centered around, okay, but what if I start posting online about what I'm actually interested in and nobody likes it? Or what if somebody says something mean or like whatever? And it's interesting, because it's like you have to transform them from thinking that way and then go, okay, but also if you don't do it, how many people that need that information are not getting it? So what's more valuable to you? The potential hurt that may never happen of someone saying they don't like your shit, or the person that literally one day goes, Leonard, I like your post today, saved my life. Which one's more valuable?
Sure, of course. I mean, obviously, touching someone's heart, mind, and soul are the most important.
So
well, the other thing too, though, Raylan, I think part of the coaching, I want to go back to the second C. There's a call to climb, and that is if someone's having difficulty. Let's say someone crashes, you want to take a look at what strategies they crash. So what happened? Did you have faulty ropes? Didn't you have a roadmap for climbing? Did you take the wrong route? I mean, you want to investigate. If someone crashes, you want to say, well, what happened for the crash? That's important, because otherwise you're going to crash again.
Yeah, and again, like I think what I found is the tactical side of entrepreneurship is important, right? The how, where to post, how to post, where to get leads. All those things are important. But oftentimes there's so much information out there. You fucking know. You know what to do. You're just not doing it. And that's where the fun gets. It's like, why aren't you doing the things that you know are going to impact your business? Are you afraid of success? Are you afraid of failure? Are you afraid of being told no? Like, what is the thing? Because again, I know so many people that are brilliant in terms of like their skill set. They're just petrified of the what ifs. And I've been fortunate enough, I think, and you saw that video I posted a while ago on resilience, and I'm fortunate enough to be too dumb to know I can't do something. And I'm like not smart enough, I guess, to stay down when I fail. And so I think one of the things that I've been trying to do is get people to think less.
Okay, so
the problem is thinking.
When I saw your video and you says I'm resilient because I'm too dumb to know, and I thought to myself when I heard that
people hate when I say
that.
I can't wait to hear
you're missing
an
important ingredient. Mm-hmm. So it's not that you're too dumb to know, but your inner guidance is smart enough also to know. So you're missing, you're too dumb to know, meaning your intellect, your belief system is too dumb to take in all the other shit about people saying, you're going to fail or whatever. But there's a genius within you that does know, and that you tap into that genius within you that knows how to survive in the world. That's the resilient part too.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's also, because I have a lot of friends that like language is really, really important. Like I'm a full believer of that. And I've had a lot of friends go, Raylan, I hate when you say you're too dumb because like, you're not dumb. I'm like, I know. But I'm wording it in a way that I think other people can understand.
Well, I think you're trying to be provocative, and I think you're.
Yeah, that too.
I can tell you're a bit of a provocative guy. Yeah. So I'm going to provoke you to get you to think, and so you're using it as a provocative statement to get people to think. Mm-hmm. So even if someone says, just like with me, it says, "Well, I don't know. I understand what you're trying to say." It says, he's just trying to provoke us into thinking, and you did. You provoked me to thinking. Well, what is resilience? Well, resilience is that I have these survival skills. I'm able to survive because my survival strategies are so attuned that we can quickly read a group, a family, a situation, and know what I need to do to survive.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to ask you about, speaking of like relationships and men, is I saw you do some work with men. So my first question is, there's been a lot of talk. There's a lot of individuals reaching out to men, and I don't know. I guess I just didn't realize maybe how fucked up we were as men. Like I think in this day and age, I feel like men are lost.
Men are in crisis.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about that, because my sense is this, and I'm curious to know how off I am on this, or if I'm on the right track. I feel as though that men are in crisis, or men are lost simply because of a lack of purpose. But remember back in the day, I wasn't that fucking old, but there was a time in which you would become an apprentice somewhere for 7 to 9 years, and then you would do your entire life working on this thing, and you had something. It was yours. You were a master of crafts. You were you made swords. You did pottery. Like there was something that we did that was ours. And then something happened where everyone got really, maybe it's the rise of the internet, I don't know, but like we became obsessed with the quick wins, the hacks, the this, the that, and it's like meaningless versus like, I think we've gotten away, and not just men, I think women too, to some degree, have gotten away from mastery and like finding purpose through doing hard shit for long periods of time and being obsessed with growing that skill. But anyway, how off am I on that, or what would you add?
Well, I'm
going
to take a different tack, and I'm going to talk about why men are in crisis. So men are in crisis because men, you are told that masculinity is toxic. You're also told to be strong, yet also gentle. You're told to be competitive, but also cooperative. You're told to be protective, but not over-controlling. I mean, with all these messages coming to us, and, there was a time that a man knew what a man is. Now, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do, Am I supposed to be listening? Am I supposed to be fixing, giving advice? Well, men are in crisis because we don't have a clear blueprint, a clear model. So my buddy Rick Bronick and I, our new book's going to be coming out in April called Power Tools for Men, a blueprint for healthy masculinity.
Hey, by the way, I like the branding. Power Tools for Men. Yeah. Interesting. I like it. I see what you did there.
Yeah. It took a lot. I mean, we went through.
As a marketer, I like it.
Yeah. That was our fourth. That was our fourth title brand, because we had to do a lot. Like, as you know, you got to do a lot of research. Mm-hmm. And that ended up being the best to really impact men, because we're looking at 8 qualities that men need in life, and we made it into its acronym classic. So C stands for connection, L for love, A for authenticity, S for spirituality, S sexuality, I for intention, C for community, and S for sovereignty. So we have these 8 characteristics of what a healthy masculine male is.
Let me ask you a silly question. What's sovereignty?
Sovereignty, just you're meant to be a king. So, you talk about self-mastery. Self-mastery is another way of saying you're meant to be the king of your life.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not meant to be, Raylan, you're not meant to be a stable hand, are you?
Yeah, I mean,
you're meant to be the king of your own castle. We're all meant to be, and women are meant to be queens of the castle too. It's not like I lord over other people. No, it means I am the lord of my own life.
Of me.
Of me. That's you. I'm circling back to you talking about mastery. Men, we've lost the purpose that we are supposed to be the lords of our life. And this is not
Yeah.
to demean us or whatever, but that means that we're supposed to be mastery. Means we use our right arm, our left arm. We use the different types of energies. I can be strong when I need to, and I can be soft and gentle when I'm with my kids and my grandkids. So I need all of these. I mean, you don't want a partner who just wants a man to be strong and tough, and then when she cries or she wants to share something, and you say, well, just let's fix it up. I mean, no, you want someone to be tender and compassionate so that you can
Yeah.
connect from heart to heart. That's the whole key.
No, I think you're definitely honest. By the way, I love the acronym of classics. You're right there, and I think I love the idea too of being a king of your own self. And in terms of like, I just say that as being responsible for yourself.
Correct.
Like
Correct.
choosing based off of nothing other than what you want.
It's choice.
And also
choice
what you
is
know
the
is
key.
right. Choice.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
so
I'm a
important.
big fan of
And
that.
that's with men. I think the men are confused because we don't realize we have choice. And we have to. Here's our challenge as men. We have to develop our internal world more. We have to develop our relational world more. Our relationship to our emotions, our relationship in connection to other people. And I think that's been, women are much, they're more advanced.
Oh my God, yeah.
They're more advanced than we
They're
are.
they're like experts at it, and we're like fucking Neanderthals. But what's interesting is, and maybe this is like it's a bigger conversation, but I think part of my issue with emotion, and I learned this actually through therapy, was that my issue stemmed from growing up with a single mother. Because you remember, like my father went away to prison for domestic violence, and so whenever I got angry as a kid, like 7 years old, temper tantrum, right? Oh, you're angry just like your dad. Well, then I started associating anger with I precisely remember that I equated anger to if I get angry, I can't get mad because I may end up being like my dad. Like I literally, as dumb as that sounds, in my head I was like, I can't get mad because I'll be like the Hulk, and then I'd start hitting women for no reason. Like I thought that's what that meant, and so I kind of we had this ongoing joke. A friend of mine, shout out to Jolly, as kids we used to say, just bury everything down deep. How do you deal with a situation? You bury it down deep, and you just lock it away, you shove it down, and you just pray that it doesn't come up and bite you in the ass later on, right? And I think you're right, is that we weren't emotionally intelligent. And I think I was fortunate enough that I was in sales for a long time, and so I could read other people's emotion, because remember, it's a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Like growing up, and you have to, in domestic violence situations, you have to read the room. Like I had to say, what kind of mood is my dad in right now?
You got to have your antenna up. You have to be hypervigilant.
So the nice thing is, it helps me a lot with sales and marketing because I have to be truly empathetic. But what I didn't learn until later in life was my own emotions. How do I feel in this moment? Why do I feel this way? What triggered it? And then what to do about it. And just now, until recently, I got really big into this guy named Michael Singer who wrote The Untethered Soul.
Oh, yeah. I've read The Untethered Soul, and then he's got I have his other book, it's the sequel to it. Great books.
Yeah. But, I found that book later in life, and then I was like, yes, feelings are important, but then the thoughts that are associated with them, if you just observe them, eventually they start to go away. And you realize that, my thought pattern is creating this emotion, which is then preventing me from living the life. So anyway, but to your point, though, like I was trying to say is that, like, just men I think we're just Neanderthals.
Well, I would agree. I think that when it comes to emotional intelligence, we are, because we've been shutting down our emotions since we were 6 years old. And when you think about it, girls have been playing in the realm of playing with dolls and house. So they've been playing relational games, whereas boys start playing competitive games. So, you give two boys a ball, and they're going to be competing with each other pretty soon. So,
Yeah.
I think the key is that we have a lot of catch up to do in the relational arena. In emotional intelligence, it really is two things. One is I become intelligent about my emotional states, when I'm sad, when I'm anxious, when I'm ashamed, when I'm loving, when I'm joyful, and I know how to shift those emotional states. So not only I become aware, but I know how to shift them. And the second part is I become aware of other people's emotional states and the relational emotional states, so I can shift it. So I mean, if my hand is on a stove and it's starting to burn, and if I'm numbed out, I'm not going to feel the pain, so I can take my hand off the stove. I have to feel it so then I could have a choice. What do I want to do? I smell something burning. Do I want a hand to burn, or do I want to remove my hand? So it leads us to choice.
Well, that's such a good example too for even the people we have in our lives, right? Like how many people are burning you on a daily basis, and for whatever reason you choose to stay, right? Like you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna be around this individual, and they're like sucking the life from you.
Yes.
Until you become aware and you go, oh, like I didn't realize. Like, look, there's people in my life that I've had to put up some strong boundaries, and in fact, like it's. I'm sad to say, I'm 32 years old. And I think at the age of 25, I learned about boundaries, maybe 26, 27. So later in life. And I go, oh, I could choose not to I don't have to answer this call. I don't have to, you know what I mean? Like, it's so interesting that, like, some of these basic life concepts we have forgotten. And I think things are, I don't know, maybe I'm just being dramatic, but it feels like it's getting worse because of social media. Like, boundaries are slipping away. People don't know how to, like, operate, And I think, like, I don't know what the problem is, but I've just noticed it time and time again. People that should know better are just not doing the basics. And again, like I said, I learned late in life about the idea that your feelings shouldn't choose for you how you live your life. Again, I learned that late. And I'm sure if I learned it late, I'm sure there's plenty of other people that have learned it late as well.
Yeah, I think the boundaries are, I'm with you. Boundaries, especially with social media, and setting boundaries even for our work. So I use the Pomodoro method. I don't know if you're familiar with the Pomodoro method.
No, teach me.
So Pomodoro method, I use it when I'm writing. So I set the timer for 25 minutes, and then when the timer goes off, I take a 5-minute break. Go back for another 25 minutes, 5-minute break. 25 minutes, 5-minute break, 25 minutes, 5-minute break, and then there's 20 minutes after 4 of those sets. So it's really 2 hours, and then I have, because the research shows that if we can put our focus in shorter bursts of time, we're going to accomplish more. And so if I'm writing, I'll set the timer 25, and I'm bang. Okay, Leonard, you got 25 minutes. Let's get to it. I set a boundary. That boundary helps me do my work, really get really intensely focused. I just got 25 minutes. Then I take a break. So I use that in my writing work, and I find it extremely helpful. Probably for those people in business, you have to give yourself little 25-minute bursts.
Yeah. So then walk me through that versus like deep work. Because what I've always found, like for me, like let's say I'm learning something new, or like one of my favorite things is like I don't just read books, I usually decode them. So I highlight things, I'm writing my own thoughts on it, but I set a timer like when I go into those sessions for 90 minutes. And I go, I'm not fucking moving from this chair. I don't care if I get bored. I'm going to sit there. Because I feel like that 25-minute thing is interesting. And I heard this, I did heard that, but I heard it from studying. I think I learned it in college. It was about studying at that point. But when it comes to, again, mastery of a skill set, like sitting down, not getting bored. Because my only reason for getting out of something after 25 minutes would be because I get bored. But I think that's the problem, is that we get bored and we're not used to being bored. Like, and I think about, do you ever read Art of War?
Yes.
Right? How to write books. It's like, no, like that's resistance. So I guess, how do you reconcile that? Like the 25-minute method versus like deep work. Nope. Sit in that fucking chair for 90 minutes and write.
It's not an either or, it's a both and. You see, if you notice, I've worked, so that, although it's 25 minutes, it's really 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I've set myself 2 hours. So that's 120 minutes, but then I gave myself little breaks in that 120 minutes.
What are you doing during those breaks?
I go take a pee, I get a beverage, I stretch, I get out of my chair, so I'm not, my bum's not on the chair for a long, so I'm stretching. I need to have kind of a bit of a stretch. Get the blood circulating.
Yeah, so context is important. So this is what I thought, like, again, like you gotta remember, like a lot of the people I know we're on Instagram, we're doing whatever. So the other people, when they hear the 25-minute method, you know what they're going to do during those 5-minute breaks?
They'll go on social media.
They're going to go on social media. That 5 minutes turns into 10.
No, that's a no.
All right, so this is why clarity is important, because I was sitting there, I'm like, if my audience hears this, they're like, oh no, but Leonard said that I could go online and play on social media.
No, No, it's to get a beverage. It's to stretch. It's to just to get out of the chair, do a yoga stretch, and then you get back. You basically, or get something to eat. Sometimes I'll get a snack or something like that to recharge, and then get back. So no. If you go on email, social media, it's going to be it's a detour. You're trying to climb your mountain. All of a sudden, you take a detour down to the bottom of the hill.
Yeah, that's what a lot of us do. And by the way, like, it's something that a lot of us struggle with. And I had to, luckily Apple has this now, but now I have time limits on my phone.
Yeah.
So I can only be on this app. I set mine for really strict 30 minutes, which is not a lot when you really think about it. Cause it's like, I just want to get on, do my thing, get the hell out. And I have clients that I look over, but I don't need to be on here fucking scrolling all day, because I think part of the problem, talk about authentic self, we do this thing where we go online and we see other people doing shit, which is called trends, right? And we see other people doing shit and then we go, oh, I'm going to do that too. What about your own voice? And I think that's why I don't go online and look at other coaches' shit as often, is because, again, I don't want to get caught up in, oh, that person's doing that, let me do that too, instead of doing something, okay, what can I really enjoy? Like right now, for example, short form content's really, really big, but I focus on long form, which is like this podcast, for example, that's going to go on YouTube. And then, of course, we're going to chop it up and put it on Instagram and everything else. But I prefer long form because I want to actually have a meaningful conversation, right? Like, could you imagine?
I appreciate this meaningful conversation. And speaking of a meaningful conversation, I just got my iPhone says I'm running low on battery. Would you mind if I just plugged in my battery?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, this is
good.
This is horrible. But hang, I'm getting to walk. Here we
no,
go.
That's all right.
Unbeknownst to me, I meant to go on the walk to.
Well, also Riverside sucks your battery dry, so
is that
it's
right?
All good. I get it.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we're recording, while we're recording, and again, for those that are listening, this is a fun fact, but while we're recording, it's interesting because it's downloading from your side instead of uploading it to Riverside, which is why in the end you'll notice that our whatchamacallit, our image will be a little bit cleaner. So,
I see. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I hear you good.
Perfect. All right, we're good to go. I didn't realize that they would be taking my battery.
No, it's all good. We got two more questions. One's a random one. Okay, so talk to me about these Carol books you're writing. These Christmas Carol books.
Oh,
that's so random. I feel like why do you like writing about Christmas Carol?
Well, think of it this way. Ebenezer Scrooge wasn't the only one visited by Christmas spirits. Mm-hmm. And so here's my therapist with me. I'm thinking, okay, why would Bob Cratchit be Scrooge's? You're familiar with A Christmas Carol?
Familiar, yeah. I won't say I'm an
Dickens.
expert
There's a lot of movies about Ebenezer Scrooge. His character arc was from being a miser and to be generous, and he had this clerk Bob Cratchit working for him. He worked for him for 20 years for this crotchety, miserable old man. And I'm thinking, what's going on with Bob Cratchit? Because at the end of the story, he doesn't change. I thought, what would happen if the Christmas spirits of past, present, and future visited Bob Cratchit and took him on his journey? And he had to go back to his past and see his father was alcoholic. And I took Charles Dickens' life because Charles Dickens' father was put in prison. Dickens himself worked at Blacking's warehouse as a boy. And so I'm going to have Bob Cratchit take some of Dickens' life, and he has to go on his character arc to go into his past to understand what was all the limiting beliefs that he learned about the past so that he could, basically he went on this entrepreneur's journey to go from the past so he can live in the present and discover the meaning of love. And the future is about the choices he makes impacts his future. So what choices does he want? What's his dream? It's kind of like an entrepreneur's. What's his dream to get to do what he really wants to do? So anyway, I did that with Bob Cratchit, and then Tiny Tim, well, his son, who's this crippled boy. And but I figured, well, hey, this crippled boy, in 1843 in London, he's probably getting bullied, and he probably knows his father's depressed, and he's probably depressed. Well, we got to get some children's spirits visiting him. So, and he has to go on his
fascinating. Okay, I'm with it now because it's like, okay, let's talk about how that individual, he had a shitty boss, but let's also talk about why the fuck are you still working there?
For 20 years.
Yeah, you got problems too, obviously.
big problems.
Let's go. No, Leonard, that is fascinating. Yes, because again, it's like it's been it's like even fast forward to today, right? There's been so many people that are like, don't work for a terrible company. Like, I can't believe I'm working here, and this boss is this boss is that. Okay, my question is, okay, why are you still working there then? If you don't like the boss, fucking leave. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that hard. Just find a better job. Or if every job, and this is another thing too, right, is you have people that in the last 5 years had 5 different jobs. Okay, at some point, it's not the jobs anymore. It's you. Like,
right.
Something's not right with you. Anyway, all right. Now that's clear.
Totally in alignment with. The entrepreneur. Bob Cratchit. It's almost as if Raylan, you were one of the spirits of Christmas future, having a conversation with Bob Cratchit and say, "Hey, what the fuck's wrong with you, man?"
Yeah, that's my kind of book.
Come on now. What is your dream?
Yeah. What are you doing with your life here? All right. Okay, so I got one final bone to pick with you. All right. So you have the Power Tools for Men. It's a program with you and another individual. When does that come out? Or does it already come out?
So, we have a series of webinars on the Power Tools for Men. And then go to our website and have access to it. It's powertoolsformen.org. And so they can go check out our webinar programs. The book is at the editors right now. It'll come out in April 2023. And then we're going to be doing a whole bunch of other coaching programs and stuff like that. We're kind of in formulation mode. We did a series of 10 webinars that are always 45-minute webinars.
Yeah. Okay, so after this, I'm going to talk to you about our agency helping you with that because I want to be involved in that. That sounds amazing. Second of all, okay, here's the bone I have to pick. I looked at your pricing, and please, God, tell me this is not true. You have a $300 coaching program for 6 weeks. Is that right?
Do I? So we have.
You need to charge more. Is my point. Well, you need to charge a lot more.
Package, the King package, and the Emperor package. So there was the Prince package, but that included all of the webinars.
Okay.
So it wasn't actually a coaching package. The coaching packages are more the King and the Emperor package. So,
all right.
But I'll tell you, we are reducing the webinars because we got lots of feedback. It says, the webinars are already. We're going to reduce the webinars so we want to get the information out, but then we're developing a coaching package that will be more. And I'd like to have a conversation with you about that.
Yeah, because what I would love to do, and this is for everyone. My whole thing is, and this is partly why I do this podcast, is because I want to show other coaches and entrepreneurs like the process of getting to this point, right? And I think would be my strategy: is the two of you create a show like this, and that becomes the content. So every single week, maybe it's a new concept, and it's kind of like your webinars, but because you could even have similar content. The webinars to your content you do for free on YouTube. But what's the difference? It's the access. It's being in the room. It's being able to ask a question, right? Like, let's take an example of somebody, he's not in your space, but he kind of is. And again, if you don't like him, don't take offense to this. I'm just using this as an example. But like Jordan Peterson, for example.
He's got millions and millions of followers.
Right? And then he's also posting tons of the same content. And then I went to one of his lectures. It's similar concept, but why did I pay the $300 to be in the room? Because I was in the room, right? You get to ask a question.
In person, Raylan, or
in person.
In person, okay.
Yeah. But that's just an example, right? And obviously you could do it to where if you did it on webinar, then what you do is you do a section where it's, let's say, this is what I would do anyway. Your YouTube content is the show between you two, and you're helping people generate impact, which is your brand awareness. You're gonna get tons more leads that way, but also brand awareness. Then when you do the webinars, now those people funnel into the webinars, but they pay to join them. Why? Because yes, there'll be 20 minutes of just back and forth between you two. But then you leave 40 minutes to 60 minutes of Q&A. So now, and then, as it grows, then people, again, pay to be there, but also you can then go through the list of questions, and now it's customized. So what they're paying for, again, is access to you and also the ability to ask questions. And then you turn that into a group coaching model, and you kind of go on and so forth. So we'll talk after this, but I think what you guys are doing is really good. Anyway, where can people find you? This was tons of fun. Let people know where they can find you.
So they can go to my personal website, Leonard at leonardsz.com. That's my personal website. They could also go to the Power Tools, powertoolsformen.org. That's the website that Rick Bronick and I use. So, as I said, I've been in men's work. Rick and I have been in men's work for 35 years. So, and I've kind of specialized in male psychology. And, so anyway, I'm very passionate about men because I think we're getting a bad rap in the sense that we're getting a bad rap because we're not acting the way we should be acting, but there's not a real sense of compassion for our journey.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And also, too, it's like, and I'm also very passionate about what you guys are doing with that. And that's why I said before, like, I want to see if our agency can help you, because I think about the journey of becoming a husband, right? How do I be a good partner? Like, that's a journey. And then I became a father. So I have a 3-year-old son, or 4. Oops, he's 4 now. But even how do I be a dad? Like, especially since, again, my dad went away. So it became this whole new thing of like, and I have a son, which made it even more fun, but also it's like, okay, what do I do with his feelings? Like, how do I address this? How do I address that? And so one of the things that I end up doing, but again, this came from like me reading books and just kind of thinking about it like a coach, but we just came up with the 3 rules. So we have 3 rules for the house. Listen, be kind, have fun. And it goes in that order. So if you have the first 2, you can have the third, but so it becomes this thing. If he's acting out, it's like, okay, are you listening? No. Are you being kind? No. Well, then we're not having very much fun right now, are we? No. Okay, so what do we should do? And then we go back to that. So anyway, I think as he gets older, though, I'm going to need more laws.
One other rule.
Yeah.
Can I add one more rule?
Yeah, of course.
I like listen. I like be kind. And are we having fun? I would add another rule. Show love.
Show love. Yeah.
So you can be listening, you can be kind, having fun, but can we show love? You're showing love. Your son wants to know that he's loved by you.
Yeah. Well, that's the one thing too that
Raylan,
like.
By the way, I did a TEDx talk in the age of superheroes. Where are the fathers? It's been listened by over 110,000 viewers. But if you watch that, you'll see all the statistics that demonstrate about the impact and the importance of fathering on children. I'm a big advocate. I was a stay-at-home dad for a year when my kids were young, and I lived in Australia. I'm a huge advocate for fathering because it's so important. This year there's over 700 mass shootings, and the majority of those 99.9% of the mass shooters are men, and the majority of those mass shooters come from either fatherless homes or homes where there are absent fathers. So, the importance, Raylan, what you're giving your son is gold. So it is, you can't give him anything greater than your fathering.
Yeah. And that was my biggest thing was, one, I was obviously going to be in his life. That was the most important thing to me. And then 2 was I'm never going, I had to really we'll end on this because we're running long. But I asked for fatherly advice from someone, and he told me he had like 5 kids, and he goes, Raylan, no matter what you do, you're going to fuck that kid up. All you could do is try your best. Doesn't matter. You could be the most perfect dad in the world, and he's going to go to therapy talking about how he had the most perfect dad in the world, and that's why his life is so hard. Regardless of what you do, that kid's going to be fucked up, so try your best. And I don't know why, but it helped me so much. I was just like, as long as I show up, and every day I try to be a little bit better than the day before. And also I'm competitive, and like I think of things like sports, right? And it's like, you don't just wake up and become a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I'm not going to wake up one day and be a black belt in fatherhood. No. Thank you for listening to The Elevated Entrepreneur. If you want to check out more about the guest, look at the description below. And as always, if you're a beginner coach or even someone that's seasoned and you're looking to join a community of like-minded individuals, learn about branding, lead generation, sales, you name it, think about applying to the Elevated Coaches Academy. You can learn more about that in the description below. I look forward to having you in the next episode, and we'll talk to you soon. Stay motivated, stay elevated.